I guess in everyday life, it's not too bad. Like there's not too many restrictions. We can go out to, to the store and to the supermarket. Restaurants are still open and things like that. But at the moment, there is a peak in Japan throughout the country. The cases are going up and up. I think the last week, every day has sort of been 50,000 or more. A couple of days ago, it was over 70,000 for the first time. So there is definitely a bit of a peak going on, and from a live point of view, not too bad. From a basketball point of view, there have been a lot of games cancelled, a lot of people throughout the B.League, either getting COVID or being classed as a close contact. It happened to our group about 3 weeks ago now. We were on the road in Gunma, played one game, the second game got cancelled, and then a few days later, our whole group, our whole travel party was in isolation for 10 or 11 days. So it's been a bit of a struggle, but I think a lot of teams and a lot of people are going through the same thing. Wow, that's a good question. First of all, I don't consider myself a legend. I got many friends that I would consider legends in New Zealand of the game before myself. Top three, man, that's a big one. 2000 Olympics, when we went to Sydney. That's kind of like my first taste of, world stage international basketball. I was 21 years old at the time, I think I was, and it was a big one for me because I'd set myself a goal at sort of 13, 14 years old when we found out that there was an opportunity to go to the Olympics in Sydney. New Zealand had never been before. So I kind of set my goal, back in, I think, 1992, 93 to make the 2000 Olympics. And so to achieve that and go and experience that, that was amazing. I guess going on from there, 2002 world champs in Indianapolis, when we were able to finish fourth. Usually finishing fourth is not something to really gloat about, but I guess in terms of where we'd come from and some of the teams we had to beat to get there, and kind of like the momentum that it gave to basketball in New Zealand was really, really special. And so that was a real highlight, just to sort of be a part of all of it, really. And third, probably coaching the New Zealand All Blacks at the 2019 World Cup. Obviously, as a player, as an assistant coach, had been to some major events, but I think any coach that has interest in coaching their national team, you want to do it at the best level. And so for me, it was a real honor and a privilege to be able to lead our country in China. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to the knockout rounds, but I thought our team played an exciting style of basketball. I thought it was an enjoyable time, and although we didn't sort of achieve our goals, I think we represented ourselves and our country really well. Really, it was just pure luck. Like I wasn't good enough to be an import in Serbia or in Turkey, but the situation was in Serbia, one of my close friends and great mentors and coaches, Nenad Vucinic, who was the New Zealand national team coach for a long time, he picked up the job at OKK Belgrade. And we just finished at the World Cup. And when I grew up playing basketball, like I would play basketball for about 4 months a year, 4 or 5 months a year, and then work because there was no fully professional league. And he reached out to me and said, I've had some injuries, my point guard's gone down, I need a point guard. And I was like, okay, I'd love to come over. And it kind of went from there. We'd sort of agreed to go over. And then at the same time, I was playing rugby league back in New Zealand. And the semi-final that I was playing in, I injured my knee and my MCL. And it was about a 4 or 5 week recovery time. And I called Nana and I said, I've injured myself. They're saying like 4 to 6 weeks. I can probably be okay in 2 or 3 weeks. And I think I was due to fly out in about a week or two. So he said, just come over, just, you know, just make sure you toughen up. And so I arrived in Belgrade and still had this injury for the first 2 weeks or so. But it was an awesome experience, you know, just to sort of go there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and then it got fired, and I kind of just went with him as well. But loved my time there. Loved my time there. It was a great city, great country, great people. 2006, Tab Baldwin was coaching in Bunfit. So Tab Baldwin, another New Zealand, he's a New Zealand legend in terms of coaching, ex-national team coach. He wanted to make a change at the backup point guard position. He had I think a Slovenian point guard there that was his backup point guard, and obviously I just knew Tab's system inside out, and he was running exactly the same system. And so he reached out to me, he said, am I interested? And I was like, hell yeah, I'm interested. So kind of made the move, went over there, and that was a really cool experience as well. We actually, you know, ended up making the playoffs. We won our quarterfinal matchup. We lost in the semis to Ukia, I think it was at the time. I can't remember. But you know, for back then, Bunfit was, you know, a low-level club. You know, they eventually moved into one of the best teams in Turkey. So to kind of be a part of that, that sort of club and team success was pretty cool. But lucky. Without my coaches, my ex-national team coaches, there's no way I would have been able to get those opportunities. So very thankful to those guys. One main memory sticks out for me. I was guarding Ray Allen. Pretty sure Ray Allen was on that team. Pretty sure it was Ray Allen. And we're at the top of the key, kind of like isolation situation. And it was one of those moments where it felt like everyone else on the floor had walked off the floor. And it was just like me and Ray Allen on an island. I thought, all right, let's go. 1-on-1. He made a move. I cut him off with my chest. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that's great defense. He stopped, he spun and elevated to a point where like my hand was like at his waist and I couldn't even get off the floor to get close to challenge it. And he made the shot, and it was kind of at that point I was just like, yep, this is the difference right now. There's a real clear difference right now. But yeah, probably the thing that stuck out playing against those guys was just like the explosiveness, the athleticism, the way that they cover ground so quickly. Yeah, huge learning experience, that's for sure. For me, the biggest difference from B2 to B1 is the overall talent level, like especially the locals, well, not especially, like the locals and the imports. Like there's a real clear difference in terms of the size and physical abilities of the athletes in B1 compared to B2. There's a clear difference and separation. And same again with the imports. Like there's some really high level imports now in Japan and B1, and it makes for a really exciting contest. And that's not to say that there's like bad players in B2. Like I think for a second division league in Japan, I think it's a really good league and a really competitive league. But for me, yeah, it's probably those things there, like just the talent and physical abilities of both the locals and the imports. I feel really comfortable here. Even when I first got here, there were some parallels between Japanese culture and New Zealand culture, especially with the Maori people. You know, not exactly the same, but there were some real similar things here culturally. You know, even from a diet point of view, obviously, you know, being on an island, the seafood is pretty amazing over here. Back in New Zealand, very similar. Geographically, New Zealand and Japan are very similar, although our population, you know, pales in comparison. And so I kind of, and also been here with the national team a few times on tour, and you know, I think I first came to Japan in 2006 at the World Cup, or the World Champs it was back then, and you know, a couple of times with the national team since then. So I had a kind of a feel about what it was like in Japan, and really enjoyed my time in Japan. And so yeah, when the opportunity came up to come here, I jumped at it. Between Kanemaru and Pero Cameron, I mean, right now I know Kanemaru's going to win. But I guess, you know, Pero back in the day when he was shooting, I mean, I think if they just had like a shooting contest, you know, just with nobody in the gym, I think Kanemaru's going to win that pretty easily. Like, he's one of those shooters that when you're rebounding for him, you don't have to work too hard. It just goes through the net and you pass it back to him. He's really that good. But you know, comparing him to a guy like Pero Cameron, obviously been through some pretty awesome situations with him. He's a clutch player. You know, when you need a big shot, he was always one to step up. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough question in terms of like game like, but yeah, just a straight shootout, Kanemaru wins that one. I mean, it sounds exciting. It sounds exciting. It sounds like it's you know, the aim is to have a Premier League of Japan, and I think the stipulations that the B.League have put in place of clubs, you know, if you want to be a part of it, this is what you need. I think it demands a certain level of professionalism, a certain level of financial commitment, and with those things combined, I think you're naturally gonna get a high quality league, because, you know, right now in B1, you know, there's 22 teams. If you think, you know, at a guess, I don't know, I'm hearing different things, you know, maybe there's 8 teams or 10 teams or maybe even less, who knows. But you take all the top players from 22 teams, there's a lot of players that are going to miss out, and then you get, you know, the quality of imports. So I think the league is going to be a very, very high level competition, and I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting for the league. I think it's exciting, and potentially really rewarding for Japanese basketball, Japanese players, especially the top level players. I think it's going to, you know, create a real competitiveness that's probably never been seen here before. I think probably the biggest thing that has surprised me so far is the lack of access to the B.League. Like even just on our team, you know, obviously we got Americans, we got myself from New Zealand, we got Nick Kay from Australia, you know, we got guys from all around the world, and it's a real struggle to find ways for our friends and families to watch games, to see content, to see, you know, to watch what's going on. And I think for me, that's as I said, I'm not on social media that much, so I don't, but I do understand that I have a lot of friends and a lot of family that like, we can't watch your games. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. It's a problem. And I think, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure the B.League has their reasons, but I feel like that would be, for me, that's the obvious one. And I think it's, you know, to just allow the world to have access to Japan and to Japan basketball, I really don't see what the downside is. Again, I'm not part of the decision making or the process or what the repercussions are. Just talking from personal experience, and obviously, you know, as I said, like having guys from different parts of the world, like there is a willingness of, you know, fans that want to get behind and be a part of the B.League, but right now the access is very difficult. And I get, you know, especially being in New Zealand and Australia, where the time difference is only 2 to 4 hours, depending on which part of New Zealand and Australia you are. So it's, you know, times of games and all that sort of stuff is, there's a whole bunch of people there ready and willing and waiting to watch. So hopefully in the near future, people can have that access. I guess my educated opinion would be probably 2 things. Obviously, you know, Europe is where some of the best basketball in the world is played. So naturally, it's a good place to try and, you know, look for the best players that you can get. Also, I think there's a shift in player mentality. Players are starting to seek out Japan, in particular, as a destination that they want to come play. They know obviously it's a good country. The money is very good in certain places in B1 in particular. You get paid on time. You know, there's none of those stories that you hear of. And I also think the B.League is, you know, progressing and improving. And part of that might be because of the types of players that that are being recruited into the country. So yeah, I think just a combination of things, but you know, it makes sense for sure. Oh, I mean, obviously having the experience at the international level, first and foremost, it's really tough. It's really tough to be successful on the international stage. I think Japan is now starting to have the depth of talent to be able to put together competitive rosters on the international stage. And I think especially with you know, they have a number of naturalized guys that have Japanese passports now. You know, Gavin Edwards, that was at the World Cup, unfortunately got injured with his shoulder there, so that hurt them a lot. Sorry, at the Olympics. You know, Fazekas, that was at the World Cup. To me, I guess really competing, like size is a real factor in international basketball. And I think, you know, those names that you mentioned, like internationally, those guys are physically, you know, kind of on par with a lot of the international sides. But you know, a lot of the, you know, it's a small nation generally over here, and a lot of the guards are undersized when you get to the international level, and so there's a physical deficiency there. You know, even with the series against China in the FIBA window in November, there was like a clear physical difference. You know, not necessarily in the style of play or skills of the players, but you know, the Chinese physicality really got on top of the Japanese, and so. You know, one thing that I've noticed and been really surprised at over here in Japan is, I guess, the lack of understanding, awareness of like real strength and conditioning programs and trainers and things like that. And I think if that's an area of deficiency on an international level, I think it's a good place to start to try and get, you know, the athletes to a physical level where they can compete internationally. It was good just to have a conversation and have different questions to ask. A lot of the reporters over here, they just ask the same old boring questions. So it was good just to be able to think a little bit broader about the game in Japan too, because I think there is potential there, but I think in some ways the administrators and the decision makers are kind of holding back the development of their players. Because of the rules and stipulations and all those sorts of things. So, but in my short time here, I think there is progress being made. So, you know, hopefully it keeps going up and up.